Pleased to provide the Mayor's report for the period of August 13th through September 4th. There are a number of events that I attended over the last few weeks, and I know Council have done the same, and I'm going to ask Council members to share some of that as well as at the conclusion. I had the opportunity to attend the Northern Association Community Council Conference in Winnipeg on August 14th and 15th. I was very pleased and appreciative of the opportunity for a Thompson mayor to bring greetings at a conference in Winnipeg. And I also had the opportunity to dialogue with the Premier during the event, who was also bringing greetings, and talk about some of our challenges. I noted that we still had a lot of work to do together, and specifically one of those was on the work that Tedwig has done and the support needed by the province of Manitoba for such things as a Northern Restorative Justice Facility. Also, while I was in Winnipeg on the same dates, I had the opportunity to meet with representatives from both Valley and the province of Manitoba regarding the grant and lieu process, and I have reported back to the committee that is involved in the discussions on the grant and lieu on those meetings, and I anticipate that we will be bringing forward a recommendation on the grant and lieu within the next few weeks. I want to note that in mid-August, the judges for the Community in Bloom contest were in Thompson, and I want to thank all those that were involved, the volunteers, individuals that went out and helped clean up the community. By all reports, the community looked great during the time they were here. They had some good suggestions on where we can improve. And I've said it before, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me the number of blooms. What's important is that people took the time to clean up the community, and they took pride. And a couple days before the event, it was neat to drive around and see some of the things that were taking place in preparation. And I made the comment to someone that if the judges weren't coming, we wouldn't have done those things. So it's also about challenging ourselves to clean up the community. And if that inspires us to do it, then I think that's great. So I thank everyone that was involved in Communities in Bloom. I also had a chance to meet with newly elected Grand Chief of Keewatin Tribal Council, Irvin Sinclair, on August 24th, and I really appreciated the opportunity to sit down and hear his vision for Thompson and the KTC region. It's exciting. Very committed to working cooperatively with the City of Thompson, and I look forward to continuing a very good relationship with KTC. On August 28th, I had the opportunity to attend the opening of the Best Western Hotel, and I know that I was joined by a number of councillors. Councillor Clatta was there, Councillor Evenson, and Deputy Mayor Fensky. And I want to congratulate the partners, Tony Chang and Lean Grundy, on just a phenomenal project. And it was interesting when we had the chance to reflect that day. If you think back to what that corner looked like before that project and what it's done for the entrance from the north to the city, it's just truly amazing, and I'm really appreciative of working cooperatively. That wasn't new land to the City of Thompson. That was just a new vision for what we can do with existing land, and I think it's an excellent example that if we're innovative and creative, we can do some really good things. And I can tell you that I didn't raise this at the opening, but the tax revenue and the accommodation tax revenue, that's a huge net gain for the City of Thompson. So I wish the partners all the best. I wish the staff the energy and the enthusiasm from the staff was phenomenal, and if anyone gets a chance to go through it, it's a beautiful project. I note that this past weekend, September 3rd, the United Steelworkers hosted the Labor Day celebrations, annual celebrations. President Nichipork always does a great job, and I heard he did it again in terms of some of the things and some of the events he had for the children. So it's great to see, and appreciate that commitment, and I congratulate all those involved in the labor movement. We are a labor town, and clearly proud of it. So that was great to see. In terms of some of the other things I just want to bring attention to, this coming weekend we're going to be holding the Health and Leisure Mart as well as the grand opening of the Thompson Regional Community Center. So Friday night and all day Saturday, I encourage people to drop by and take in the event. There's going to be a variety of entertainment as well as the opportunity to sign up for events over the coming winter. I'd ask people if they have the time to attend the opening ceremonies for the Thompson Regional Community Center, which will be held at 1 o'clock on Saturday, September the 8th, and we'll have a number of announcements at that time regarding the complex. When Health and Leisure Mart takes place, that means summer is coming to a close. And again, with that, there's going to be a transition. School starts this week. I can advise that we have asked both the RCMP and Prairie Bylaw Enforcement to ensure they're adjacent to the school zones. Some people will need a friendly reminder. We need to slow down and take caution in school zones this week, because the children will be excited to get back to school, and we have to ensure that we take the time necessary to ensure it's a safe environment. I want to speak to a couple other items. I talked briefly about the grant in lieu. I'm very encouraged that we can bring forward a recommendation for the consideration of council that will speak to the needs of this community over the next number of years, and I hope to have that before council, likely before the end of September. The Thompson Zoo has been a subject of much debate over the last week or two, and I want to advise and really encourage people that if you have a question, give us a call. Some of the content that I read about what was going to take place or what was happening was so inaccurate. It was offensive to see that sort of discussion taking place. I can tell you that the Thompson Zoo is operated by the Thompson Zoological Society. Volunteers have done a phenomenal job at that zoo for many, many years. They approached the city of Thompson, who owns the facility, and said in order to get to their long-term vision of the Boreal Discovery Center and to ensure that the zoo was sustainable and there for future generations, that they felt they had to make a move. Two things they asked for from council at that point. One was the council would support them moving over the next few years to a seasonal petting zoo in order to transition to the Boreal Discovery Center. That frees up the time, the human resources to complete that transition. A vision that was shared with council and that council has endorsed. The second thing they've asked for is that council continue the current level of funding for the next number of years so that they can allocate some of those resources to the transition. And there's been much debate about how you get this done. Well, I think those were two very reasonable approaches to try and move forward. Council will make that decision in the budget process, but those were the requests. I can tell you, they have kept myself and city manager absolutely informed as to the process. They engaged professionals to ensure the highest quality of care for the animals that were moved. I can assure you that they took every effort to make sure, and I think they're very pleased and have conveyed to me that they believe the animals are going to likely a better facility than what we were able to provide in Thompson. And that's taking nothing away from the staff, because the staff have done a phenomenal job. Unfortunately, we haven't resourced them to the level to have the facility at the point it should be. And I can tell you that the animals were successfully moved this week. There was no conspiracy. They were working very closely with professionals in the business, and an opportunity arose to enable them to move those animals safely, and that's what took place. I appreciated the zoo board's commitment to opening the zoo and providing an opportunity for people to say goodbye to some of those animals, and I absolutely acknowledge that there is a very close relationship between the zoo and the community. And I can recall, both as a youngster going to the Thompson Zoo, which, I remind people, was originally set up as a petting zoo, as well as my children going there. I understand that. But really, from a point of view, and I've heard it so many times, and I've gone with other counselors to visit that site over the last few years, where there were real concerns with the quality of the facility and the ability to provide the care for the animals given the budget that we had. So, I certainly endorse the recommendations that came forward. I appreciate the commitment of the volunteers to work towards a better facility at the end. I'm absolutely committed to ensuring there is a zoo experience every summer in this community for children. The city of Flin Flon was very successful in making the transition to a petting zoo, and we're working closely with them. So Councillor Beyer, I know you've been the lead from council, and I appreciate the effort there, and we will continue to keep the public informed on the process of the zoo. So I wanted to provide some of that clarification, and as I've said many times, if you have a question, ask a counselor, give me a call, 679-0915. I'd much prefer to answer a question than to see some of the absolute ridiculous comments that I hear in and around this community about what's going on from people that clearly are not informed. A couple other things that just to update people on. I had an opportunity last week, it was in the Public Works report, very pleased on the work that's being done on Princeton Drive and Brandon regarding accessibility on the curbs. Christopher Blake and I had a chance to go and see some of that work. It will be completed by the end of September, which will hopefully make the community far more accessible. Thompson Drive South, as people are aware, construction is proceeding. The anticipation is that will continue over the next number of weeks. We will have signage, additional signage going up to inform the public on what is taking place. And again, I ask for the caution and the cooperation of the public in terms of during that construction. I also want to end with extending my congratulations to re-elected MKO Grand Chief David Harper, who was elected last week. We have an extremely positive working relationship with MKO, and I look forward to that continuing under his leadership. I think I've captured everything I've got on the notes. Again, I'd open it up to anyone else that might want to provide some comments on activities they participated on behalf of the city. Councillor Beyer.
I know you already spoke at great length about the zoo, but I was there on Sunday and on Monday when the animals were sent away. And there's something that I'd really like to say about the 2 zoo staff members who stayed on hand to make sure those animals were safely loaded. Heather and Cheyenne were expertly professional in what they did. It's very hard for them to see the animals that they've cared for the last, in one case, almost a year, and the other one several months. They develop bonds with the animals. They know, I mean, all of those animals are aged. They know which ones have aches and pains on a cold day. They know which ones need special medicine. They know which ones can't eat corn anymore and which ones have sore feet and what to do about it. It's almost like they're looking after a family of children more so than somebody who has an office job or something like that. So this was a very emotional time for them, and I really want to commend those 2, Heather and Cheyenne, for their very, very professional attitude that they brought forward. They were so helpful to the 3 former Assiniboine Zoo experts that came. And just to reiterate one thing, all of the animals will be going to CAZA-approved zoos. CAZA stands for Canadian Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And they meet certain standards which our zoo hasn't been able to meet, quite frankly, which we will meet as the Boreal Discovery Center. And so we will be getting reports on how those animals settle in. We will hopefully, or the Zoological Society will hopefully share those reports first with the 2 staff that had to say goodbye to those animals, and then make the information available to whomever is interested as well. But we have been told that we will be able to have progress reports on the animals. So that will help, I hope, some of the people who feel that emotional connection. And just one other thing, the Zoological Society, I really have to commend them. They've made some extremely difficult decisions. They're a new board. Up until a year ago, the Zoological Society board was pretty much non-existent. It had fallen apart. All of these people come on and given a challenge of redefining the zoo to make it sustainable for the long term, and they are pulling together just awesome. So you have a volunteer board who all have full-time occupations, many of whom travel a lot with their jobs, trying to keep on top of a short-staffed zoo, trying to develop a dream for the Boreal Discovery Center, meet with consultants and develop the plan, as well as begin the difficult task of fundraising several $1 million. That's an awful lot for a volunteer board. So I commend them on this decision. As Mayor Johnston said, it was a very difficult decision. I think it's a very responsible decision, because the other thing people have to realize, if they tried to do any construction while those animals were still in place, that would cause an inhumane amount of stress on those animals. They're already old. And to move them from location A, B to C again during all the noise and racket of the construction that would be only feet away from their cages, that would be the most inhumane thing you can do to those animals. So for the people who are, I understand that when people get emotional about animals, that they say things that maybe are inaccurate, but just try and think of it in those terms. We want to do what's best ultimately for the animals, and sometimes what we do best for the animals just hurts ourselves and pulls at our heartstrings. So again, I really want to commend the Zoological Society, especially Andrea Hatley, who's been bearing the burden of most of the research and negotiations that have taken place, and also the two zoo staff who had to say goodbye to their wards. So.
Members of council regarding activities over the last period? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.